Lazarus had to die. Martha and Mary bartered with Jesus, if you had but been here, my brother wouldn't have had to die. But friends, resurrection doesn't take place until death has come. Lazarus had to die. And you see, there's a timing with Jesus. The timing is that in the Jewish tradition, after 4 days, the Spirit, they believe that the Spirit hovered over the body for 3 or 4 days. And so by Jesus coming 4 days after Lazarus had died, the people knew that it was nothing but a miracle that Lazarus was brought back to life. Because the spirit of the body, they believed, had already gone. And so there was something miraculous, there was something wonderful about what Jesus had done there. And the people believed. Death is something that we like to skip, isn't it? And it's not so much the fact that we don't believe people go on to heaven or that there's something better for people when they die, but it's more of that dirty, in-between place in that moment of before death that we have to deal with, isn't it? We worry about how. We want to know how. And we don't want to deal with the pain. That's why we like to jump from Palm Sunday to Easter morning, right? We don't want to deal with the nitty-gritty death of Good Friday, do we? We don't want to deal with the betrayal that happened on Maundy, Thursday by Judas. We don't want to deal with any of that. We would just rather go from the party of Jesus coming into Jerusalem to the death, to the resurrection of Jesus on Easter morning. And pretend everything in the middle, well, yeah, that kind of happened, right? But friends, it has to happen, doesn't it? Death has to happen so that we can have life. Death has to happen so that we can be born anew. Death has to happen so that we can become new creation in God. It happens in the church, too. We like to think that everything will always be fine. We're not good at letting things go, are we? We know how to hold on tight, like we're on a roller coaster ride, and if we let go, we just might throw our hands up, and something might happen. But God calls us to let go. Sometimes it's important for us to let something die so that something else can come to life. I didn't know this about the forest, but after a couple times preaching this sermon at different churches, and it changes periodically, I had someone come forward to me who works for the forestry. And I talked about how the brush, or he talked to me actually, about how the brush on the ground of the floor of the forest cannot grow if all the trees are living. That it's once a tree dies, that then sunlight can get down to that forest floor and allow that new earth, that new plants, the new life to grow. Death has to happen so that new life can come. I wonder for us, what might need to die so that new life can come? The road is a restart out of the West Genesee United Methodist Church. It was a huge church and very active in its heyday. It had over 1,000 members in its heyday. It had a 3-story building, a huge sanctuary with a balcony, and a beautiful space. That church went from over 1,000 members to down to about 25 average attendance on a Sunday morning. And after a few years, they moved from the sanctuary into a Sunday school room that they had turned into a chapel because the sanctuary was too expensive to heat. These people were dedicated. And they would tell you that they were happy with where they were. And when it came down to the end of a journey of discerning where God was calling and leading that church with Jeff Hodge, they journeyed together. And they decided that they didn't have the energy nor the desire to reach out to the people in the neighborhood around the church. And so they decided they would hand everything over to new leadership. And that's when the road was created. The road was the new birth out of something that we allowed to die. We said we wouldn't be a Sunday morning worshiping congregation, that we would worship at other times, partly so that we could go and share our story, and partly because we believe the people we were trying to reach aren't going to come through the doors on Sunday morning. It took us a year of discernment to decide that we needed to auction that building. You might have seen it on the news about a year ago, last Thanksgiving. We were auctioning everything inside, and we were auctioning the space. It's all done. It's all been finalized. The auction is done. The building was auctioned off. And we've started something new called a cafe-style church on Onondaga Hill. Onondaga Hill United Methodist Church discontinued. They closed. And at an annual conference 2 years ago, they voted to be in for the road and St. Paul's in the Valley to do ministry there together. And we have renovated the space. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see some pictures, and you'll also see a video from our concert a week ago Friday with Beautiful Mess, where we raised money for an organization called Faith Hope Community Center that takes people off the streets and teaches them conditioning and boxing skills so that they won't join a gang, and so that they will learn to box it out in the ring with pads on and stay safe and actually save a life. And so we raised money for them, and we had a great time and great fellowship, and it was a lot of fun. There was even beach balls going in the sanctuary, lighting and all. Sometimes something has to die so that new life can come. The road will always tell you that we would never be where we are today if it wasn't for the faithful people of West Genesee United Methodist Church. In fact, we still hold that as our legal name. And the road name is our business name. And we do that on purpose. We do that because that is our legacy. That is where we've come from. Because God did a miracle in the midst of everything and allowed something new to come forward. Now we take risks. And this cafe-style church may or may not work. But we have faith that God's going to do something awesome with it. And we kind of know that. With all the roadblocks that we've run up against, we've decided either we haven't been listening well, which we don't think is true because we see God moving, or there's something up against us that thinks that this is going to be so awesome that it needs to stop it. That's where we're at. There are lives being transformed and changed. And we knew that we needed to do something different. We couldn't do traditional church because of the people we were trying to reach and because of the ministry we were doing. We would never get enough in an offering plate to sustain the ministry of doing ministry with people who don't have money to put in an offering plate. And so instead, we have created this cafe-style church that has a full functioning cafe. That Cafe Kubal has worked with us. We've contracted with them. For those who don't know what Cafe Kubal is, it's a pretty big roasting and coffee place in the city of Syracuse, well known. And they've contracted with us. They have trained our manager. They are training our baristas. And those people will be training our volunteers to make coffee and mochas and espressos, and you name it. If you can make it at a cafe, it'll be made at the road. And we will be there for college students to come and do work. We will be there for the community to come and have events. We will be there for us to have Bible studies and worship. It'll just be different. And we will be there to reach out to people on their darkest hour and rejoice with them on their happiest time. Because that's what the church is, isn't it? And so together we do that. And one of the things that we do is we have theology on tap. We meet at a bar. Every Thursday night, we meet at a bar. It's called Rosie's Sports Pub and Grill. And we have conversational worship. And so I'm going to try something a little different. We don't usually have this many people sitting at the bar with us. Not that when we walk up to the bar, we don't have quite a few people talking to us and asking about God. But I wanted us to talk and have a conversation as best we can as a group on this whole idea. Is God calling you to let something die in your own life so something new can happen? What is God stirring in your heart as you hear the story of the road? Where is God leading Fulton first in the community around it? What is exciting you today? What is stirring up fire and passion? And maybe, where are you seeing God this morning? Where have you seen God's heart? Anybody? Just shout it out.
My enthusiasm.
My enthusiasm. Praise God for that.
Upbeat music.
Upbeat music. Where else? Where are you seeing God? Yeah.
My granddaughter's beautiful face.
Your granddaughter's beautiful face.
And my great niece.
And your great niece. Where else? Where else are you seeing God this morning?
In the music.
In the music. All the people making lunches. Yeah. Where else? Where else are you seeing God?
In my wife's face.
In your wife's face. Beautiful. Where else?
In nature.
In nature.
In the beautiful people of the congregation.
In the beautiful people of the congregation. What is God stirring in you this morning? What is God stirring in you? I call it a whole, actually my coach, I have a coach because I'm a planter. And my coach tells me that when I get this stirring in me, it's called a holy agitation. And usually I get this holy agitation right before the road is about to do something new. Right before we're about ready to launch into something, this holy agitation stirs up in me because I know that things can't stay the way they are. So is God creating a holy agitation in you this morning?
It is in Lily.
I love it. I love it. My 7-year-old, when he was that size, would stand in the back of church and he would preach to the outside the window. And he would take the ledge of the windowsill and he would and pound on that windowsill. Very much reminds me of that this morning. And sometimes I think they have something important to share with us if we would listen. How else? God might be stirring anything?
Children bring new life to us.
Children bring new life
From
to
the
you.
excitement,
Yeah.
from the smiles, and from their exuberant attitude.
That's right.
Makes us bubble with joy. And
Sure
want
does.
to join us.
We do want to join them, and we should join them. Doesn't the Bible say that we have to have faith like a child? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll say what my holy agitation is. I envision Friday night service here like other churches do, with a band where young adults love it. And if you ever could read or even look online to see how many people are going to Abundant Life and Believers Chapel in North Syracuse and Syracuse, it's unbelievable. I've gone on Friday night sometimes and Saturday night, and it's all types of people. It's young adults, and I mean, they wouldn't even fit in this church. There's just so many people going, and some of these churches have 3 full services on a weeknight and then 2 on Sundays. And I think a lot of it is the band and the music and the uplifting. I mean, the preachers are excellent too, of course. But I just envision the Fulton needs something like that, so that people from Fulton don't have to drive to North Syracuse and Syracuse to do that, which a lot of people are doing from all over. You know, this should be Friday night service where it's different. It's not like this. I mean, this is great, and it's what United Methodist, a lot of them are used to. But I envision a rocking type of, and it's not hard rock, I don't mean that, but it's something like what we heard today, and the on the radio and whatever. But people can sing along, and it's just that's what I envision. That's my holy agitation.
That's your holy agitation this morning. Yeah. Something new. Something that brings life. Anyone else? Yeah, what's your holy agitation?
Have you tried it a little bit, well, like she's talking with the music and everything, when you get in better weather where you do it outdoors?
Yeah. We actually have had block parties with DJs and everything.
I think we have over by the lake here, you know.
Yeah.
Pavilion over there. Different things go on over there. I think we need to have something like that on a regular basis, or more people coming all the time.
Yeah. So there's this idea and this understanding that God creates holy agitations within us so that we don't stay still. So that we don't say that what word am I looking for? The status quo isn't our norm. But instead, we're always looking, where is God leading us? What is God doing new? What is God calling me to do and step forward and lead in? What is God calling me to ask someone to lead in? We're always looking for where is God leading us? What's happening that is stirring within us? Excuse me. And it's not always that we get rid of something. But sometimes we have to be permission giving, don't we? Sometimes we have to say it's okay for something new to happen. And so that's what this story about Lazarus is about. It's about saying that something new can happen. It's okay. And God works in it. And God works in the miracle. And if you noticed, God worked in the hearts of Martha and Mary and all the people around. It was because of that miracle that people came to believe. So when we allow miracles to happen within us, when we risk knowing that we don't know what's going to happen, but we know God is going to be with us no matter what, we have a God that's bigger than any risk that we take. And when we take risks in church, sometimes we're gonna end up on the other side with a great learning lesson. And sometimes we're going to end up on the other side with wonderful fruitfulness. But it's never a failure. Because we either learn from it and we change direction, or God produces fruit in the midst of it. It's always a wonderful thing. And that's what happened in the story of Lazarus. God produced fruit in the midst of it when people came to believe because of Jesus and what Jesus had done. I want to challenge you. And if you know any of you can ask my parishioner that's in church this morning from Sister United Methodist Church. I never end a sermon without challenging. Because here's the deal. God doesn't tell us something and then have us sit still with it. And so I'm going to challenge you to listen to those holy agitations. To go talk to Pastor Mike and to share them. And don't be willing to just share them, but share how you are willing to take a step forward in the midst of it. And that you're willing to talk about it. And to share that with other people. What is God doing within you, within Fulton First United Methodist Church, within the community of Fulton and beyond? Where is God calling you? And how is God asking you to serve with all that you are and all that you have? And listen to those holy agitations. They don't go away, by the way. God only makes them stronger and stronger until we finally answer. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, we thank you for Lazarus. We know that Lazarus had to die. That Martha and Mary, as much as they wanted to spare Lazarus from that, God had other things in plan and in store. Lazarus, in order for him to resurrect and be a miracle for people to then believe in Jesus, Lazarus first had to die. And so, Lord, speak to our hearts. Help us to be permission-giving, to allow certain things to be let go of so that new life can come. Be with us as individuals as we look at our lives and see where you're leading us to let go of something so that something new that you have in store for us can take root. Be with us as a church as we continue to look and see what those holy agitations are within each and every one of us for the ministries that you call Fulton First to do. And Lord, be with us as a global church, that together across our conference and across the world, we can share your love. That it's as simple as that. Sharing your love with every person we meet and allowing you to do the rest. Unite us together, Lord, as we do your mission and your work in the world around us. May people come to know your love and your light and your grace because we first have listened to you. We praise you and thank you, Almighty God, now and always.